Welcome to StartupHakk. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers and build custom software solutions. So I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO, and with over a decade of executive leadership experience and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology, teams, and products. So there is a huge announcement that came over this afternoon. Intel, one of the largest tech employers, has announced that it is going to be laying off 15% of its workforce. That means that there's going to be an estimated 12,000 people that are impacted. And I definitely wanted to bring this to you guys as soon as I heard. So haven't done a lot of lives at night, but we're going to jump on right now and knock this thing out because I definitely want to make sure you guys are up to speed on this as I try to bring you all the news on job markets, especially around technology. So let's dive in. All right, so let's dive in here. So Intel has recently announced a massive layoff affecting 15% of its workforce, which will translate to over 10,000 employees. I saw other reports that estimate as high as 12,000 employees. This is a significant reduction, and it's part of Intel's plan to cut $10 billion in costs amidst revenue slump. Now, the company's been struggling for a while, right? They've really been struggling to keep up. And they cite that the advancements in AI and its impact on their traditional chip business is a major factor. This has sent shockwaves through the tech industry, and especially here in Phoenix, where we have a large Intel plant, definitely raising questions about the future of many jobs. So it's definitely a tough pill to swallow, and it will affect all of the job market, because what this does is it actually provides a glut of tech talent that's going to come out. Now, and so it's a tough pill for the company, and it's been a giant in the tech world for decades. But what does this mean for all the tech market? So AI can either be the scapegoat or the savior. And so a lot of what they're looking to talk about here is that they announced that they're going to be downsizing, and it will reduce its R&D marketing spend by billions each year through 2026. It will reduce capital expenditures by more than 20% this year and restructure to stop non-essential work. And so Intel's leadership points... let me switch back here really quick. So Intel's leadership has been huge for decades, right? But their leadership points to AI as a disruptive force that has accelerated the need for these layoffs. The argument is that AI is automating tasks that once required humans, but also they're also blaming the AI competition with NVIDIA and AMD as part of the reasons why they've had to do this. So let me switch back to some of these articles here, right? Thanks for the ad pop-ups. And so, simply put, we must align our structure with our new operating model, fundamentally change the way we operate. The job cuts come on the heel of a disappointing quarter and forecast for the iconic chip maker founded in 1968. Let me go find some of these other reports that I was reading here, because a lot of them are starting to blame AMD and Intel, saying that Intel announced a significant cost-cutting plan, including layoff, may bolster its near-term financials, but this move alone is insufficient to redefine its position in the evolving chip market. Now, that evolving chip market is the fact that AMD and NVIDIA are kicking their butt. The company faces a critical juncture as it leverages U.S. investors in domestic manufacturing and the surgical global demand for AI chips establish itself in the chip fabrication. Intel's losing. I don't know what the percentages are. I could probably go Google and find it, but they're losing massively. And then not only are they losing beyond that, but beyond AI, Intel's financial struggles have played a significant role in the decision. The company has faced a revenue slump due to increased competition and changing markets. Rivals like AMD and NVIDIA have been gaining ground, putting pressure on Intel's market share. Now, also, the other thing in this is that Windows, Microsoft used to have a very tight alliance with Intel. And as I recently reported, we're seeing Windows on ARM is actually starting to beat a lot of the Intel benchmarks. We're getting close to it, and on efficiency. So even if it's beating, Intel still beats most of these ARM chipsets on performance of just raw processing power, but in the end, they lose on efficiency for battery life and other type of things. And so what you're seeing here is you're seeing long-term that Intel is going to be really hit with this, right? Like they're going to be hitting that, and they're going to be laying off a ton of people. Now, this wave of layoff might push Intel to innovate more aggressively, but most likely not, as it looks like they're slashing their R&D. So either that, or else they're trying to bet that they can use some AI tools internally to try to do more. But I don't think Intel's quite that cutting edge. So it can play. So the layoffs at Intel might signal a broader trend in the tech industry as AI continues to evolve. We're seeing some people staff up, like ChatGPT, Microsoft, lots of Meta, like tons of people. I could list off 20 people who are increasing their spend on AI. But the thing is that dollar and those jobs on those spend are not going to Intel. And so Intel's strategy is a really risky one right now because they are losing in the AI battle. And so this is a great example that even if you're king, if you stop doing good R&D, you're going to lose. And so, let's look at some of the stuff. Let's take to X really quick and see what stuff people are talking about here. So, this is the layoffs.fyi, right? Layoff talking about it. And it's interesting, here's a shocking 1-year chart, right, of where their stock has been. Lots of people talking about this. Let me grab another one here and pull it over. So I thought this one was interesting. So a source on the Intel employee all hands call is asking for voluntary cuts first, right? So they're asking for anybody who would like to probably take some kind of a severance package, maybe early retirements, those kind of things. If they can't get to a 15% reduction, then they'll move to layoffs. So unlikely they'll get to a 15% reduction just by doing that. They are canceling free coffee and free bananas. Well, that's kind of interesting. And there's also a 4-week sabbatical going away every 4 years, moving it to 7 years. I know I've had a lot of friends that worked at Intel, and they take these 4-week sabbaticals, and it's like part of it. So, so this is going to be interesting to see how much of this will actually end up coming in as a layoff, or if that was just some misreporting. So we'll cut about 15,000 roles, or 15% of its workforce, to achieve $10 billion in cost savings by 2025. So my guess is they aren't doing this crazy fast. Like, we're not going to see this in the next 30 days or something. But this reduction is estimated to result in approximately 19,000 employees being laid off overall. Let's take a look at this. Painful news for me to share. So this is the CEO. We moved their all hands company meeting following the earnings call. So after the earnings call, probably not a great sign. Painful news for me to share. I know it's being more difficult for you to read. Simply put, we must align our cost structure with our new operating model. So I think, so right here, our revenues have not grown as expected, and we've yet to fully benefit from powerful trends like AI. Basically, they're getting their butt kicked by AMD and NVIDIA. They're getting their butt kicked in the standard chipsets by other companies that are making ARM, like Qualcomm and some of these other. So they've lost their hold on Windows, and overall, they've just really lost their market share. They still do have the most powerful desktop processors, but most people aren't really looking to a lot of processing power anymore, right? These things we walk around in our pocket. I don't know very many people who are like, oh, but it's got 16 core. Like, people don't really care anymore. We've reached a point where most machines and phones and things like that aren't limited by processing power. We care more about battery life. We care more about efficiency. And then ultimately, when it comes down to it, where they put their bet on the strong processing is on desktop and server computing, and yet where everybody wants to see it is on AI. And so they've lagged strongly behind on their AI processing. And I think now we're seeing the downfall of that. Let's grab here what the AP's reporting here. I'm going through this with you guys here, so bear with me. But I've just challenged them to a score. The company posted a loss of $1.6 billion, or 38 cents per share, in the April through June period. That's down from a profit of 1.5 or 35 cents per share a year earlier. Adjusted earnings excluding special items were 2 cents per share. Now, you remember during the COVID, and so let's actually let's go look at the Intel stock really quick. Intel stock, if I can spell. Let's look at the Intel stock. Obviously, it's going to get hammered after hours today. So, looks like after hours, we're even talking about a further 18% drop after hours. Poof, yikes. So let's kind of look at the 5-year here, right? Yeah, so during COVID, there was a massive run up, right? Where, and so it looks like they did pretty well through 2000. They were doing pretty well through the late, the late teens, into the early. And so when COVID hit, they did pretty good because they rode high. If you remember, you couldn't get your hands on laptops, processors, and chips were just crazy good. They definitely got hammered earlier this year, but they've been climbing back up. So we've had this 1 year funny little bubble here, right? That in this 5 year, not 5 days, in this 5 year, we've seen this decent little climb back up, but they're going to get their stock's going to get absolutely destroyed after hours. And so, but on the 5 year, they're down 40%. So definitely as a company, their earnings is clearly struggling. Revenue slid by 1%. Analysts on average were expecting earnings of 10 cents per share on revenue, but obviously they missed that by a large margin. So unlike its rivals like NVIDIA, Intel manufactured chips in addition to design them. It has been working to build up its foundry business, making semiconductors in the U.S. competing with rivals such as leader market Taiwan Semiconductor. That's another thing that's going to hit them, is some of that. We believe the trade-offs are worth it. The AI PC will grow from less than 10% of the market today to greater than 50%. Investing in the AI PC market. Kind of curious to know what they mean by that, because are they saying they're trying to invest into stronger PCs that can run AI with like Copilot and those kind of things? But I think most of those are still even hotly relying on graphics, and Intel's just never really done well on the graphics. So, not surprisingly, Biden, applauded them in September, praised gave them for the $20 billion project. My guess is a lot of these type of projects are going to get halted if they're trying to make up a huge earnings shortfall. And I know there's a lot of talk about bringing, chip. And so either candidate that wins this fall could really benefit Intel, because if we get into a trade war with the overseas, with Taiwan, with China, and we put high tariffs and other taxes on trying to get chips out of other countries, that's good for Intel, right? I mean, most of that will mean a good thing for Intel. But ultimately, they're still going to lose to NVIDIA, and then NVIDIA and even AMD, which is behind in even NVIDIA if you compare the two, but still with some big announcements on NVIDIA right now. Definitely NVIDIA and AMD are running circles around Intel right now, and then that's clear to see. It's tough because Intel does these layoffs every few years. So where I know there's a lot of FUD or fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the word layoff right now, the reality of the matter is that Intel lays off fairly frequently. Intel layoff, let's go through the history of layoffs. They have this history where they staff up, layoff, and I know they've been doing this over time. I could probably, I don't know, we could see if these guys have some kind of record of their past layoffs. I'll have to go back and find these for you for a future live here. But in short, Intel's had a history of going through and staffing up and laying off, and this is one of their bigger layoffs, right? This is going to be a big hit, but they've got to be able to figure out how to cut $10 billion in cost, and that's obviously not going to be simple. Now, I think what we are seeing here is actually all the prediction that I had, that AI is what is going to continue to drive the tech market. I do think we're going to continue to see a hiring surge on AI, on this AI bubble into 2024 and 2025. And I think it's going to be less of a bubble and more of a long burn. And I think we're going to see, now we've got these new AI great features in these new chatbots and all of these new AI processing. and then how do we get these implemented into the various systems? And that's going to take some technology. It's going to take privacy. It's going to take a lot of data managing. It's going to take developers to integrate. And I think that's what we're going to see over the next 18 months is my prediction. I think there's still some late bloomers like this that are just still fat from the COVID fattening, if you know what I mean by that. During COVID, especially Intel, literally was staffing up as fast as it could. And Intel doesn't move very fast. It's a super big company. So they staffed up, revenues were up, and they did one layoff before, after, but it was a very small layoff. This is obviously going to be a much larger layoff. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of the final breakdown from that. Plus, I think they're losing on the desktop war. I think they're losing because I think we're going to see things like Windows on ARM. I did a video on it before. I think Windows on ARM has dethroned them as the only desktop processor choice. And NVIDIA and AMD have definitely been kicking their butt in the AI market. Nobody's buying Intel. I don't even know if Intel even has anything that stacks up against it. So I think in short, this is the outcome that we've seen from predictions that I've made. I didn't predict this particular layoff. I do still think the job market will be strong this fall. This could put an interesting bump into it. I don't know how fast we'll see these personnel hit the market. With all of them hitting the market in some areas like here in Phoenix, it could put a big glut of developers onto the market then looking for jobs, which can make the competition more fierce. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. And this says through 2025, so it'll be curious to see how fast they do this. So that it sounds like it's going to be a plan over 18 months. So I don't think we're going to see like 10,000 developers hit the market next month. I'm sure I'm going to get some fingers pointed at me that were like, haha, told you so, the tech market's crap and it's not going to come back. We'll see. I could be wrong. This is a difficult market to predict. We're in very uncertain times. But at the same time, I think, and my prediction is, this is some of that COVID trimming that we just saw by companies who move at a snail's pace. And Intel is definitely the definition of a company that moves at a snail's pace. So I think we're seeing some reactions to bad earnings. And I think this was inevitable for Intel anyways because of their loss in the AI market. And I think they're going to be losing on the desktop market here as ARM on Windows becomes more of a thing. So that's my take on it. As always, here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers in our coding boot camps, and we love to build custom software solutions for companies. So if you know of anybody looking to start into a tech career, we're happy to start them. We hire a lot of people for our consulting firms, and we're always looking for new consulting jobs. So make sure you hit us up, check out StartupHakk.com, and we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.